Welcome to Immigration Quicktake. This is Jessica Eyes with the American Immigration Lawyers Association. October 8th, tens of thousands of people from across the country gathered in our nation's capital to demand that Congress pass immigration reform with a path to citizenship. Joining us to discuss the day's events is Anu Joshi, Grassroots Advocacy Associate here at AILA. Can you give us a rundown on what happened?
Thousands of community members, immigrants, advocates, and elected officials come together in support of real immigration reform with the road to citizenship was awe-inspiring. The truth is, the speeches were kept to a minimum, thankfully, as most people couldn't wait to hear from the legendary Los Tigres del Norte, a musical group that has been performing for more than 4 decades and has won multiple Grammys, and they did not disappoint. Rallying their crowd with their inspiring music, telling the stories of immigrants caught between two worlds and their love for America. While Los Tigres was performing, people personally affected by this country's broken immigration system took to the stage and shared their stories. We also heard from quite a few members of Congress, including Senator Menendez of New Jersey, a member of the Gang of Eight, and House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, who was joined by dozens of members of the Democratic caucus. Democrats weren't alone. 4 Republicans also took the stage, 2 from Florida, Mario Diaz-Balart and Ileana Ros-Lehtinen, and 2 from my home state of California, Jeff Denham and David Valadao. I think the most awe-inspiring moment of the day, though, was when legendary civil rights activist John Lewis from Georgia took to the stage, introduced by immigrant rights icon Representative Luis Gutierrez from Chicago, and proudly proclaimed that he would march with the crowd and that he would be arrested for immigration reform.
I understand that many different groups, religious, civil, business, all joined together in support of reform. What was the feel at the Capitol?
The march from the National Mall to Capitol Hill told a very important story about this movement, I think. People came from all over their country, brought their children, their grandmothers, their employees, and they held hands, they chanted, and they each made their individual case for why we can't wait, why the time is now for reform. The march concluded with the arrest of over 200 activists. Among those, 8 members of Congress in an act of civil disobedience. With thousands of people watching, cheering, praying, and working for reform, the events helped to underscore the urgent need for House Republican leadership to take concrete action to ensure that the House of Representatives votes on immigration reform this year.
I know that there were also events on this past Saturday and that some AILA members or chapters took part in these outreach efforts. What can you tell us about this?
It was pretty incredible, actually, with over 180 major events in 40 states across the nation. AILA members were joined by immigrant communities, faith, labor, business, and civil rights organizations to call for common sense reform. Some of the events included farm worker actions in Central California, statewide caravans across Arizona and Illinois, downtown rallies in Houston, Dallas, Atlanta, and Los Angeles. Participants even marched across the Brooklyn Bridge in New York City. All in all, a pretty successful day of action. I think the most important thing to remember is that even as Congress continues to demonstrate their inability to do their job amidst this terrible government shutdown, immigration reform advocates won't back down. That we will keep lobbying, meeting in district, marching, working behind the scenes, speaking to the media, telling our story, telling our client's story, until we have an immigration system that works for us the way it should. We all know the time is now. And don't forget that you can stay up to date on everything that's happening, both in DC and around the country, with immigration reform at Immigration Politics 2013, www.aila.org/IP2013.
Thank you, Anu, for joining us. For the rest of you, please stay tuned for more updates through Immigration Quicktake with the American Immigration Lawyers Association.